Adieu, Alouettes. A grand old team runs out of downs. We'll ask 3 CFL veterans what went wrong in Montreal. The Journal with Bill Cameron and Paul Griffin.
They tried changing the name, they tried changing the image, they got new owners, a new stadium, and at one point they got help from the federal government. But in the end, the Montreal Alouettes just could not sell football in Montreal.
As you heard on the National, the sudden death of the Alouettes today shocked football fans across the country. But it was no great surprise. Despite past glories, the Owls have been having trouble on the field and at the box office for years.
They were once the team to beat in the East. Back in the 50s, stars like quarterback Sam Echeverry led the mighty Montreal Alouettes to the Grey Cup game 3 times. Then again in the 70s, Montreal dominated the CFL's Eastern Conference. They took home the Grey Cup 3 times that decade. In 1970. Next in 74. And again in 77 after this sloppy, slippery match against Edmonton. That was the year the Alouettes moved into Olympic Stadium. It was also the last year they won the Grey Cup. Montreal fans back winners, and when the Alouettes stopped winning in the early 80s, the fans stopped coming, in droves. The franchise racked up huge financial debts. Nelson Scalbania swooped in 1981 to rescue the team from bankruptcy. He took a risk on pricey U.S. imports like Vince Ferragamo and lost. The next year, Scalbania, $5 million poorer, turned over the team to Charles Bronfman and a mascot. In 1982, the Alouettes became the Concords, but no matter how you spelled it, their name was still mud. It seemed the only thing the Concords could win was the dubious honor of being the worst football team in North America. Last year, the team changed their name back to the Alouettes, but it didn't fool the fans. The franchise lost $4 million last season and managed to sell less than 5,000 season tickets this year.
Joining us now from Montreal, 2 Alouettes who lost their jobs today, tight end Nick Araki and linebacker Mark Hopkins. And in Toronto, Leo Cahill, general manager of the Argonauts. He began his CFL career with the Alouettes. Nick Araki, I guess you care about the Alouettes, but the team only drew 100,000 people in Montreal last year, so I guess we have to say maybe Montreal didn't care enough.
Well, I think by the turn of events today, that's probably the result of what you just said. We didn't do a very good job of selling our product to the Montreal community, and as a result, we're in the situation we're in today. Not a very good one, but it's something we have to deal with.
Mark Hopkins, when you were playing, did you get the impression that you were playing as part of a great football tradition that the city really cared about?
No, I feel that the tradition that we had known was from previous years, and that the tradition had seemed to be past. We were looking to build a new tradition, and it just seemed from the turnout of the fans and just from the type of publicity that we got that it wasn't to be.
Leo Cahill in Toronto, what killed the Alouettes? Was it management? Was it the city? What?
I think probably the biggest disaster of the Alouettes came just a few short years ago when Nelson Scalbania had that unfortunate situation over there where he brought in a lot of high-priced players, and you know, things just didn't materialize. Then the team went bankrupt, and I think the thing that really hurt the Alouettes more than anything else, and I had my start in football in Montreal with the Alouettes, and I'm very saddened by this quick turn of events, but I think the thing that really hurt them more than anything else was losing their name and having to be called the Concords, and I think it lost a lot of the French support. And it was something that was going to take some time to rebuild, and I think in the process, they just didn't have enough time and enough money to do the job.
Must have been more than that, though, because they drew 476,000 people in 1977, and it went straight downhill until last year it was 100,000. Has to be more than a name change.
Well, that was 1977. That was before the Scalbania incident, I believe, wasn't it? My mind wanders a little bit right now, but I remember the 1977-78 season very well because I was coaching the Argonauts at the time, and actually it was our football team that was playing against Montreal when they broke that all-time record of over 69,000 fans, which never will be duplicated because they've taken seats out of that stadium. But in the ensuing years, since 1977 and 78, they've had some things that just didn't materialize for them, and I think that the fans over there grew restless, and I don't know why fans changed like they have in Montreal, because as I said, I started in Montreal, and the fans were great over there, used to take the players to their homes, and were out at practice at all times, and you know, we really felt that they were tremendous fans at that time.
Well,
but
Mark Hopkins, what was it like playing in that stadium in front of a handful of people over the last little while?
Well, you find that, for one thing, you're never nervous. There are never enough fans to create that kind of atmosphere. But in another way, it's kind of sad that enthusiasm is never really generated, and the team never really gets that feedback from the fans to really show them what they can do.
Do you think, Leo Cahill, that the CFL has done everything that it could to prevent this?
Well, that's difficult to say. I think that being in meetings in the past, I know that there was a great effort made to keep that franchise in Montreal. And one nice thing about this thing is that I've seen a lot of franchises go amiss and end up owing a lot of people a lot of money and a lot of players a lot of money and a lot of debts and so on and so forth. They're breaking clean on this thing, and I think they're to be admired for that. But it's difficult to say whether more could have been done. There was a short time element in there, and I think that they probably think that they did about as much as could be done.
Nick Araki, it's been said for the last little while by some analysts that the problem with the Alouettes is that French Canadians simply don't like football. Is that your impression?
Well, that's not the impression I get from going out and talking with the people, and we've done quite a bit of that in the last few years. I think it's too simple to just go and say, well, it was the Scalabania era that killed football in Montreal, or it was bad marketing. I think it's a combination of a lot of things, and it's something that the rest of the league now has to deal with.
Well, that brings us to this other matter, of course, and Mark Hopkins, maybe I could ask you about this. There are other teams which, if not close to bankruptcy, are at least close to a sort of perilous situation. They're not making a whole lot of money. Is it your sense that this might just be the beginning of the end for the CFL?
You're certainly correct in saying that a lot of teams are in jeopardy now. They do not have the cash flow really to sustain the team for a number of years. They seem to be going to the well with the people from the individual provinces in an emotional effort to try and rally the people behind the team. I don't know how often they can be able to do that without some solid marketing and you know, and the people of Canada believing in the CFL.
Leo Cahill, good thing or bad thing?
Yeah, well, can I butt in right there and say that I've been in the league a lot longer than these two young men have been in the league and been around the league, and there's always been a trouble spot or two every year since 1960. But the sum and substance of this whole thing is that there was the Continental Football League, the USFL, the World Football League, and a couple more leagues, and they were all going to put the Canadian Football League out of business, and we're still in operation. And teams like the Saskatchewan Roughriders have always had to have big banquets and off-field activities and things to sustain their football team, but they've always managed to do that, and they've done it again this year.
But this team is gone, and the CFL hasn't had to deal with anything like that in its modern history.
Well, what I'm concerned about more than anything else is the fans in Montreal. They're the ones that let the football team down. Football is still very prevalent in Canada. There's still a lot of interest in the West in football. There's still a lot of interest in Toronto. And the Canadian Football League will exist, and it'll get bigger and stronger. And I think out of all of this, 8 football teams playing with parity, with a good playoff system, and with a lot of competition will probably improve the play in the Canadian Football League without the Montreal Alouettes.
Do you agree?
There's only 2 ways for it to go. It's either going to dissipate, or it's going to have to get stronger to make up for Montreal's loss. And I have to believe, along with Mr. Cahill, that the league will get stronger and that it'll continue to flourish a little bit more than it has right now.
Well, Nick Araki, I guess you're out of a job. Where do you go from here?
Well, right now we have a 48-hour period to wait, and that's the waiver period. In that time, any team in the league can pick us up, and if that's the case, then I will report to that team and continue my career. if I am not picked up by a team, then I will resume working in the real world. I have my degree in commerce, and I've been working the last 5 years in that field, and whatever happens will happen, and I'm prepared for either option.
Well, Leo Cahill, you're in a position to hire some people. You must run your eye down the list, and you must be able to tell me how many Montreal Alouettes will be playing football a week from now.
Well, I think one of the encouraging things about all of this, if there is encouragement to be had, is that there are about 38 players available that were good enough to make the Montreal team and make a professional football team, and certainly there will be probably 15 or 20 of those players that will be grabbed off in a hurry and have an opportunity to fulfill their ambitions, and that's have a professional career.
What about these guys?
Well, they're two very fine prospects, but we're not going to tip our mitt over here until the time comes when the draft comes, because we'll draft third, and we don't want to say who we'd pick first, or somebody might grab them in front of us.
Nick Araki, would you have won this year or come close? How good were you?
Well, we'll never know. You know, that's obvious now, but I think we had a very good team. We had a great coaching staff this year, one of the best I've been associated with, and Coach Fergelli. And the last thing I told him today is that for the first time in a long time, he'd brought back fun to football, and the guys were really enjoying themselves and working very hard. He was one coach that you wanted to work real hard for and get something done for, and it's too bad we'll never know that answer right now.
Mark Hopkins and Nick Araki in Montreal, Leo Cahill in Toronto, thanks very much for this. So long.
Thank you.
Bye, Bill.